Everyone, and welcome to the Harlingen City Commission meeting and joint commission meeting with Cameron County Drainage Districts number 5 and 6. The time is now 5:32 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. It has been duly posted as required by state law, and we have a quorum of the city commission because all are present. And I will pass it to the Drainage District number 5.
Who will be the first ones? You're gonna open up your meeting.
To open up your meeting.
Steve, you wanna open up the meeting?
Let's come to order.
Basically, that you, the board is here.
Okay, all of our board is here and we're ready.
Okay.
Mayor, I'll speak for the president. Josh should be on his way here in a couple of minutes. Secretary Oscar, our engineer, Anthony Garza. I know, he's presenting it.
And so we have a quorum of DD 5 and 6? Yes. All right, fantastic. Okay, moving on. At this time, I'll ask everybody to please rise as Commissioner Mesmer leads us in our invocation.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, dear God, thank you for the gifts that we have individually, and thank you for the collective gifts that we have, that we may do right and proper for Harlingen and Cameron County, and have mercy upon all the souls gathered here. And as it is still the Paschal season, I will say in Serbian, Christos Voskresi, Vaistinu Voskresi. And that means Christ is risen, indeed he is risen. Amen.
Now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mark?
Under state law, a conflict of interest exists if a commission member or certain members of that person's family has a qualifying financial interest in an agenda item. Members with a conflict of interest cannot participate in the discussion or vote on the agenda item. Are there any known conflicts of interest to disclose at this time?
None.
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 At this time, we will move on to item 3, citizen communication. And we have 2 citizens, I believe, signed up. And we will begin with Ms. Beth Fuqua. Is Ms. Beth present? No, she's not even, okay. Okay, fantastic. And we have Jeff Mayer. Mr. Jeff? Okay. We do have comments that have been distributed to the commission. Having no one else present and signed up for citizen communication, we'll close citizen communication at this time. Gentlemen, is there anyone signed up for public comment? In 5 or 6? No, okay. Moving on to item 4, workshop discussions, and I will turn it over to Rolando Vela.
Mayor, we're gonna have 3 presentations, one by the city of Harlingen. We're gonna go first. Chris will be presenting,
Okay,
and then we're gonna have a presentation followed by DD5. Rolando, will you be presenting that one?
okay, so we're gonna go,
Yes, and then the final one will be by DD6, and your engineer will be, Anthony will be presenting that, okay. So,
okay,
and Mayor, I don't know if you wanna wait till the end of the presentations to have questions, or go, as we're going along, just ask any questions, but it's up to the group.
okay, so then, just so we can be efficient with our time, since it wasn't really kind of, we'll start with item A, the review of the March and April rain events, and then we'll just ask everyone to just hold their questions, so that way we can get through the presentations, and then we'll take the questions at that time.
The Mayor, just as an FYI, the presentation that we have tonight is gonna cover all 3 of these topics,
Right.
so.
But they're gonna go in this order,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am, yes, ma'am,
So we'll start with A.
yes. Chris, do you wanna?
Good evening to everyone. My name is Christopher Torres, Public Works Director for the City of Harlingen. So, our presentation is it's a brief overview of how we initiated a drainage crew and some of the, projects that we have completed and that we still have going on. So, fiscal year of 2023, we, initiated a drainage, crew. We purchased an excavator, 2 dump trucks, 1 Lobo trailer, 1 front loader, and 1 backhoe for the total expenditure of $1.2 million. And then the drainage personnel encompasses the drainage manager, 4 equipment operators, and the annual salary is $253,000. Some of the drainage ditches that we maintain covers, as you can see, 9.20 miles of drain ditches. And then, as you can see on the drop down there, drainage district number 5 has a total of 15.26. Drainage district number 6 has a total of 1.64 miles. Irrigation district has a total of 6.32 miles. Irrigation district has a total of 5.06 miles, and TxDOT has a total of 4.71 miles. We've in the city of Harlingen, we maintain roadside ditches, and that's something that we do year round. Every week, we submit a weekly report where we show all the work that we do on a weekly basis, and this is just part of it, right? So here, it's showing that our crews completed drainage improvements on Altas Palmas and Stewart Place Road on District 5. We actually did 7,500 linear feet of roadside ditch that was regraded. TxDOT drainage, this is a project that we took on last year. We identified that there was a large portion of the TxDOT drainage that's near the frontage and Haverford location. And so we noticed that there was about 3/4 of a mile that had not been maintained over a period of anywhere between 8 to 10 years. There were trees that were overgrown anywhere between 20 and 30 feet up. It literally looked like a jungle, right? Because people would pass by the frontage and did not even notice that there was a ditch there. And so this is a project that we took on with TxDOT's assistance, right? But it was a collaborative effort between TxDOT and ourselves. We did all the work. And so these are some of the expenses that we took by doing the maintenance on that ditch. We had to rent a long reach excavator for the amount of $28,767. Our tipping fees were $46,189. We had labor hours for our personnel of $10,298, and our labor hours for the excavation of $7,805, for a total of $86,041.43. This is just part of our regular maintenance that we conduct year round, as I mentioned. We do have our drainage crew, but we also have a dedicated group within our streets department that takes over some of these projects. And so here, the drainage crews completed the annual drainage cleaning in District 1. It was 3.3 miles of drain ditches that were cleaned in District 1. This is one of the projects that we took on 2 years ago. This is the Hell Ditch. We actually received a bid from a contractor to widen this ditch, and so we got a quote for $301,000. But since the city took on this project in-house, the city was able to save $166,603.05. It actually took 3,310 linear feet. It took 10 weeks to complete, and this improvement benefited the southeast area of Ed Carey. This is one of the projects that really helped us a lot. The Ed Carey section, whenever we have rain events that are pretty heavy, that area floods really quick and it stays there pondering for a while. We realized that in the March event, when we had 22 plus inches of rain, It did flood, but it receded really quick. So we know that these projects help. This is another project that we took on in-house. It's a T drainage. We received a bid for $306,000, but by doing this project in-house, we saved $128,000. This project took on 2,400 linear feet of winding the ditch, and it took 8 weeks to complete. This improvement benefited the area of Fair Park and Lozano. And again, it shows again that these projects do help, right? Because during the March floods, we had water in that area for about 2 days, where in the past, all that area would have water on the street for 7 to 10 days. This is our Lozano detention pond. So this is the biggest project that we have going on right now. We are about 78% complete with this project, and we are hoping that we can complete this within the next six to 8 weeks. We received a quote from a vendor to take on this project for $745,571 with 77, but this is only for 7 acres. And so by doing this in-house, we saved the city $387,180. And this is the biggest project that we have, and this we're doing with the drainage crew that the city commission approved back in 2023. And again, this picture right here is a picture that was taken after the March floods. We have sections of this detention pond where the peak is about 8 feet and it goes low to 4 feet, and the whole thing was filled. But there was still room for capacity in there. And so again, all this water could have been on the streets, but it was in the detention pond. So I go back to the same thing. These projects do work. These are just a few pictures of our preventive maintenance. We do inlet cleaning really year round. This is something that we don't think it needs to be done only for hurricane preparedness or even after, right? We do this year round. Just so you guys have an idea, right? So the total number of inlets that we have citywide, it's 4,961 and growing, right? Because we have a lot more infrastructure coming in, a lot more subdivisions, commercial, retail, and so that number is growing. And then some of the future projects that we have, we have it on our table that we need to expand the ditch to the north for further retainage on the West Gate subdivision. As you all know, that's an area that really flooded and had water in there for more than 2 days. And then the other one is White Oak subdivision, same thing. This is another subdivision that flooded and had water in there for more than 2 days. And then Pelican's Landing, that we have in our mind that we need to get to it, and we're thinking about expanding the outfall. And then these are some of the
Chris, before you go on to the grants, can you just cover the amount of rain that we had in the March floods? And how long it took us to get the water out?
So I was actually one of the personnel that stayed overnight during the March floods, right? And through an application that tracks water, but we also have rain gauges. They all topped off after 8 inches, right? But through the application that I keep, pretty handy, our engineer, Luis Vargas, passed it on to me. I realized that throughout the night, it went from 12 to 16 to 18 to 22 inches. And I stopped tracking the rain after, I would say, it was like maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. All this water came super fast, right? It literally, we got 22 inches within a span of 19 hours, I would say. I might be wrong, right? But that's the number that I got. And so, I can seriously tell you that there's no infrastructure in the U.S. that can hold that much water and that can, get that water out of the streets or the homes. And so, we went to work right away. The following day, on Friday, we activated some of our pumps. We have an 8-inch pump, we have 3 6-inch pumps, and we have 2 4-inch pumps. And we activated them all up, right? And as you all know, we did get assistance from other municipalities, but it took Saturday, Sunday, Monday, by Tuesday morning, we were able to stop all pumps, and we were able to say thank you to some of those agencies that assisted us, and the city was good. There was no more water on the street or in homes. With the exception of just a few subdivisions, right, that we had to continue working in there, like White Oak and Westgate. So we were able to work pretty efficient and worked really, in a fast manner to be able to get all that water out of the streets and homes.
So Chris, on Wednesday night, do you know how many inches of water we got on Wednesday?
Yes, so we got anywhere between 5 and 6 inches of water. And that was throughout the city, because again, we have 6 rain gauges that we have throughout the city, but we also keep track on that application. So 6 inches of water the night previous, didn't help at all, right? Because if we would have gotten maybe just 1 or 2 inches the night previous, maybe the 22 inches wouldn't have been as bad, but then again, like I mentioned, right? There's no infrastructure in the US that's gonna take over 22 inches and not flood.
So when you had the 6 inches on Wednesday, what did the team do on Thursday morning to see if these improvements had mitigated any of the water that we received?
So we sent out different teams to visit those locations that are flood prone, right? I can tell you, for instance, our assistant city manager, Oscar, and myself went and visited some of those. We took pictures, like, the Lozano Pond. That one had, I would say, maybe about a foot and a half of water. It had capacity for, I really don't know how much more water we could fit in there, right? But like the T drain ditch, it had water, but it was moving along, it was receding. There was really no areas that had water on the streets. We went through the whole city, and then we continued doing some of the inlet cleaning, because of course, some of the rain that we got hit with did move some of the brush into some of the inlets, and so we want to remove all that before knowing that we were going to get hit again, right? National Weather System said anywhere between 3 to 4 inches, and we ended up getting 22 inches.
So 6 inches, Meadows, that's not going to impact the city?
It's not going to impact at all. I can honestly tell you, from everything that we saw the following morning, and I might be crazy if I say this, right? But I mean, we could probably take on 10 inches and we're still gonna be good.
So does anybody have any questions for Chris before we move on to the next segment of grants?
Just, I have a question, Mayor. Your first slide, you had the miles of drainage ditches. That was that by city district? Because you had district, like 9 miles.
I think it was the first.
That's city
Yeah,
district.
9.2
I think those were by the
miles.
drainage districts.
That belongs to the city, is that what it
This
is?
one right here?
No,
Yeah, that one there.
they're within the city, but they don't belong to the city.
It's
Okay,
divided
that's
by
what I want to make clear, like,
politics.
those are, the drainage district, those are drains, ditches, but that are in the city limits.
Correct.
But don't
belong to the city. Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make that clarity, if anyone else had that question.
Chris, I would like to add that rainfall at 21 inches. That's 81% of our annual rainfall in 18 hours. And as you pointed out, you said no place in the US can handle 21 inches in 18 hours. I'm gonna go further and say no place in the world can handle 18 inches or 21 inches in 18 hours without flooding, death, and destruction.
You're absolutely right, Commissioner.
So I think that's also a good point that Nick brought up, is that a lot of people in the community don't understand that some of the ditches that are within the city limits are not maintained by the city and maintained by partners that are here around the table. So I think that's really important, and looking at Drainage District number 5 has quite a substantial amount within the city limits, and which is why we work really closely together to ensure that we're working collaboratively to provide these services to the community. And Drainage District number 6 too.
So if nobody has any questions, we have a couple slides, right, that display some of the grants that we're working actively for drainage. One of them is being the Treasure Hills Boulevard Storm Sewer System. The 5th and 7th Storm Sewer Drainage Improvements, the Commerce Street Corridor Redesign, the HUC 10 Planning Study, Jefferson Drainage Improvements, and the 21st Drainage Improvements. Does anybody have any questions regarding these?
That's what, 18 million, that's combined with the, matching, I believe, I can't make it out.
That is with,
No, Commissioner, that's just for the grant itself. That doesn't include the match.
So 18.7.
correct.
Thank you.
So this is another one, this one right here, it's 81,797, and it's a little bit of some of the other ones as well, but has some, additional ones like Wichita Drainage Improvements, the Ed Carey and Business 77.
81 million.
Oh, I'm sorry, 81 million, yes.
No. So just to clarify, that's 81 million, right?
Yes, that is 81 million.
Pending, and then the others have been secured, and they're just going through the process.
That is correct. And then the last one here, so these are some of the big ones. The Harlingen Drainage Improvements at Adams Crossings and Fair Park, the Jefferson Avenue Drainage Improvements, and 21st Street Storm Sewer Improvements. And those are the amounts.
And Chris, may I ask a question? What's your timeline on these grants? When did you first submit your application for those grants? Like yesterday, or has it been?
So we have a specialist that deals with the grants, and
So some of them were submitted several months ago, like the 5th grant, we submitted those last year, and it's been over like 13 months at this point that we haven't received some sort of update. And then as far as the hazard mitigation grant applications, those were submitted a month ago, so some of them.
And then these grants have been canceled, so
Yeah, the last ones, the BRIC grant actually, so we submitted 3 applications. We worked really hard, submitted the 3 applications at the beginning of the year, and then we found out that they had been canceled not too long ago. There was one grant application that we were awarded funds 2 years ago, and somehow they were going through the FEMA process, and you know how lengthy that might be. And so that one was canceled, and so we didn't have a chance to obligate the grant award, so we basically lost those funds.
So we didn't have a chance to obligate because we're waiting on FEMA.
Yes, correct.
We were not,
No,
no one
no,
was waiting on us.
No, absolutely.
And can you explain a little bit, Anna, what the BRIC grant is and that it's not just canceled for Harlingen?
Yeah, that's a nationwide, is one of the largest grants for mitigation projects, climate change and other type of projects. It's the largest one. We actually were trying to get funding through that program because it's 25 million that we can get, which is one of the largest. And again, we had a really good chance of succeeding this year. Unfortunately, the project code got canceled. We went to technical assistance basically through the fall and earlier this year. So we were hoping that our application was gonna be very competitive, and unfortunately got canceled, so after we submitted.
Okay, again, these are not canceled because they're canceled based on the application.
No, they were canceled by executive order, so.
Change administration, I think.
Right, just so, because I know that there'll be people listening in, and we wanna make sure that they understand that they weren't canceled specifically to this region or to the city, but it's no longer offered.
I wanted to ask her, what is the typical time from time you start an application until you get all the responses, you get the awards, you get your environmental studies, you get your archaeological studies, and the job is completed? What is a typical time frame?
I think based on the past grants, it's been taking between 6 to 12 months to hear back whether we're gonna be a recipient of the grant. And as far as the environmental, usually that has been handled after we execute the grant agreement, and usually that also takes 12 months. Now, 12 months to up to 24 months. And what we've been trying to do is to do a concurrent process, right? We're working on certain aspects of the program, of the project, while the environmental is kind of being underway. But it takes a long time. It takes, between 6 to 24 months to get that completed. And that's if you don't get, additional,
Yeah,
permits.
so that you can start the work.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions, Grants?
So that's basically our presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
And we'll send a copy of the PowerPoint, we just completed it today, to the mayor and commissioner, so you can have it. And,
Share it with the other
yeah,
And if
districts.
I'll send it to Rolando and to Gilbert, so you can share it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Rolando, I think you're next.
Should I stand up or?
Yeah, okay, you should stand there. and speak this way. Chris, great job.
First of all, I'm Rolando Vela. I serve as the general manager on behalf of Drainage District Number 5. We're honored to be here. We're honored to be here with all of you, Arlington City Commissioners, Mayor, Number 6. And we have a PowerPoint. You see, we have the district leadership. We have our board members, Nick, Steve, Jerry here, the staff. We have 4 staff members and we have 3 engineers. But before I go on, I want to say some things that I think are very important. And they're not on a slide, but it's very, very important that people recognize this. We are flat. We are in a delta. So it begs the question, why is that important? Oh, first of all, I want to introduce Tom, Irrigation District. And District Number 3. We are flat. You can ask, why is that important? Because when you're flat, if you've been to Austin, been to Hill Country, they have natural floodways. And so why is it important to know that we're flat? In order to be able to move water, you've got to dig ditches, open drains. You've got to put detention ponds. That's the only way it's gonna work. That's the only way you're gonna move stormwater. 3 years ago, we worked with Representative Lopez to file House Bill 4742. Why do I still remember that bill? We mobilized over 25 cities in the valley, the counties valley-wide, to raise awareness of what artificial drain systems means. Get the state to recognize that these communities that are flat have challenges. It's not enough to simply upgrade a crossing. As a matter of fact, at the presentation I gave before the Senate committee, I brought up the point, just imagine that culvert, that pipe that's in front of your driveway, just imagine if you upgrade it. It's gonna have a limited benefit. And just imagine if all the neighbors on one side upgrade it, the same size, and the other side, they do the same. It's gonna help, but this stormwater has to go somewhere. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about downstream. And we were fortunate, the bill was signed into law, we didn't get everything we want. Legislatively, you shoot for 10, you end up getting 2, you got 2 more than what you first started. Governor Abbott signed the bill into law. Now, if you go to the Texas local government code, there's a term, artificial drainage system. The state recognizes that terminology. Part of that bill, it was optional for the Water Development Board to study the challenges of communities that are flat-faced. And incidentally, that problem is not only common in the valley, it's also along the border coastal regions of the state. Engineers from Texas Water Development Board met with local engineers, asking questions. They prepared a report. Our report was, there are some recommendations that we feel need to be considered. What you do legislatively, and I mentioned this to Mark earlier, that if a bill becomes a law and it's put aside somewhere, it starts gathering dust. We've got to move this bill, this topic forward. What do? We got Representative Lopez to file 4329. The top recommendation of that report, have the Development Board study it. I'm happy to report that bill left the House floor Saturday. And I know because Representative Lopez called me 9:30 in the morning, Rolando, the House floor has already approved it. Second bill, and you're gonna find out why, 2331. We have environmental projects, we have 4 projects right now that we're still trying to get the environmental clearance on, that we got the funding for 3 or 4 years ago. And so we asked Representative Lopez, can you file a bill? Get the Water Development Board to do a study to review its environmental review process in the hope of expediting. And I met with Brian McMahon, the executive director. He was here in the Valley several months ago. Good friend of mine. That bill passed on Saturday. A third bill, with TxDOT. The third bill, 4050, to get TxDOT to do a study on incorporating drainage in its overall transportation planning process. The bill stalled. So anytime the bill stalls, it's gonna get killed. And so luckily, Representative Lopez called me. You gotta meet with TxDOT engineers. We met with Rex locally, Jack, all of us. We expressed our concerns that when they plan, they don't consider downstream, when they plan when they do the improvements. I'm supposed to meet Wednesday with the state engineer about that. So, legislatively, we're working on that. It is important to keep that ball rolling, awareness on the challenges we have. One of the things that I need to emphasize to everybody, it's extremely important to recognize, we all work together. Thursday night, I'm now a board member of Texas Floodplain Management Association. I'm the only non-engineer in the board. Thursday night, where is he? Luis, where are you? Luis?
Which one?
Thursday night, calls me, the night is the event yet. Well, I need to talk to Jack Brown. We have issues over here in Treasury Hills. I don't really know, call him, call Jack, we'll take that. Every day, I was on the phone with Gilbert called me, London, we've got 8 pumps. Gabe, the mayor, everybody in the various districts, cities. Michael Galvan, 6 in the morning on the phone. Saturday, Sunday, afterwards, we all work together. We all work together. And so, because we all feel it's important to work together. Flooding mitigation. I think it's important before I go on. What does it mean to mitigate flooding? We actually had a phone call a couple years ago from a lady saying, I have a small pond of water in the middle of my yard. Can somebody come and drain it? Flood mitigation is not about, and we get phone calls from people, there's water in the bar ditch, there's water on the street. I'm not an engineer, but I'm here to tell you that the bar ditch, the street convey water somewhere. They're designed that way. For us, flood mitigation means lessen the severity of water. When people come to us and say, hey, I got what, so we're modeling. Eric is here, Jack is here, Alan is here. We're modeling how can we lower the amount of rainfall. Let me give a good example before I start with the slide. 2019, I've got one of my board members who lives in the area where, in fact, his property flooded. Dishman Elementary, 2019, this much water, not only inside the campus, a whole neighborhood, 138 homes underwater. There's a 24-inch equalizer pipe that we've applied for funding. I'll tell you what happened there. So we built an open drain, connected it to our detention pond, connected to Wilson Track Lateral, to our North Main drain. I meet with the superintendent next week. So what happened in 25? Less than 2 inches of water inside the school. How many schools flooded, Steve? How many property flooded? 25.
Maybe 1/10 of them.
So I think it's working. And so the past several weeks, we've been talking about analyzing Shanghai March 2019-25, comparing what happened 2019-25. I'm not an engineer. Several weeks ago, I asked Eric, what happened? What do you mean? I want to know something in layman's terms. Let me tell you what happened in 2019. Delta Lake fell in Harlingen. Delta Lake fell in Harlingen within 4 hours to 6 hours. No drainage system would have been able to handle that. And if you look at, I don't have it here, if you look at the table, nearly 1,000-year storm. Most drainage systems are designed for 100-year. We got 10 times more than the system could handle. So I asked a very stupid question to one of my good friends, engineers. Well, if you upgrade the drain system to 500 or 1,000-year storm, then he looked at me like, you're not talking about hundreds of millions, you're talking about billions of dollars. And so what happened 6 years later? We've done leadership of Alan, the board members, a lot of improvements. The modeling showed we got to put some check valves in certain areas in Palm Valley. That open drain, I'll never forget Eric calling me. And I'll tell you what happened in Palm Valley with their funding. This, for Orlando, this Palm Valley project is very important to the overall system. And so what happened in 25? 22 to 23 inches of rain under 28 hours. Nearly 1,000-year storm. No, and Tim Smith kept saying it repeatedly. No drainage system could have handled that. Imagine 10 times more. So it begs the issue, so how do you prepare for something like that? You continue investing in detention ponds, widening the channels. I can go on and on, but I will continue with my presentation. As a former city manager, I've been in government for 20-something years, working with a lot of elected officials. And one of my biggest blessings is working with these three gentlemen, Steve, Nick, and Jerry. Fiscal conservative. I always quote Steve because he says this, Rolando, we gotta spend $1 and make $2. And these gentlemen are our board members, very good board members. My staff and myself, we're privileged to have a board that we do. They're about fiscal conservative and want to make sure we're spending the money wisely, and they remind me, we need to leave the community better than when we found it. And next one. Jack Brown, I think he's an icon in the valley when it comes to engineering. I've known him for many years when he was a county engineer. In fact, he's a founder, he's gonna talk about the watersheds. The founder of Number 5, and Eric Scheibe, showing how qualified Eric is. Engineer speaks at engineering conferences and modeling, work with the U.S. Corps of Engineers. They're gonna say a few words about the watersheds, about some of the projects we have. District overview, 40 square miles. We don't serve entirely Harlingen, but we serve Palm Valley, Primera, and we have over 70 miles of open channel we maintain. It was created in after the storm in 1991, 93, 1993, 2 years later, the district was formed. Again, we're about mitigating flooding. When people come to me, and maybe I'm gonna turn it over right now in the watersheds. A gentleman came for me to talk to me about Spanish Acres. He said, what's going on? What I'm about to show you shortly, the list of grants. See those 4 grants were? 4 major detention ponds I was showing him. 4 years on hold on environmentals. You see all those other ones? He was like, and then he kept talking about FEMA. What about FEMA? That was 2 weeks ago. On Friday, he called me, hey, Rolando, did you guys get the green light on those projects? Did the president declare a disaster so he can start getting money? And so what I want to do is turn it over to Alan, Eric, and Jack to talk about the watersheds that we have in number 5. The maps that we have on the screen will show you number 5, I believe number 6, number 3. So I'll turn it over to our engineers.
I'm saying it up. Okay, so yes, Eric Scheibe with Scheibe Consulting, thank you guys. Well, this is a map and you can see all the different drainage district locations. We're obviously talking about Drainage District 5 right here in the northern Harlingen area. It is watershed based. Everything that is within the district boundary drains to district ditches, does not drain off to other areas. I think there is one spot up here in that north corner, if I'm not mistaken, that Alan has told me about, that maybe there's some outside area that drains in. But that is, you know, generally the layout of Drainage District 5. We're also the Drainage District Engineer for Drainage District 3, but I'm not here to talk about that today. So we can go to the
next one.
Next slide. Yeah, and then this just illustrates all the miles. So we, in 2016, our firm was hired to develop a 2D model and drainage master plan update for Drainage District 5. We created that. We're able to simulate, you know, the different frequency storm events. I do want to highlight, you know, everybody's talking about 22 inches in 24 hours, things like that. A 100-year event in these models is somewhere around 11 or 12 inches in 24 hours. And even that in our models, there's still vast flooding. So just to kind of highlight, I mean, this is double what anybody would ever expect this past event. In 2019, the model that we created, we calibrated it into the 2019 flood, and it high water marks, and it matched within 6 inches of something like 30 high water marks. Similarly in this 2025 event. But that was what is used to develop these project ideas that we're gonna go over here shortly. So that all started again in 2016, and we can go to the next slide. I'm not gonna go over this one, let's go to I wanna go to the projects, maybe the next slide.
Well,
I don't know where the projects are, but go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, one
Here
of
they
the
are.
things, go back to the, Nick, to the one on the, where it said flooding. We know one thing for sure, 2019, it took about 2 weeks for the water to recede. 2025, the vast majority, 2 days. That's a pretty good thing. Something is working there. And again, when we apply for grants, the state and federal government are not asking you have water in the bar ditch. They're asking how many structures were affected, businesses and houses. When Eric does a benefit cost analysis, they're looking at all that. And so it's important to recognize that. So when all of us mention flooding, for us it's how water inside a house. And I need to clarify something. Our responsibility is this channel and the detention ponds. We're not responsible for subdivisions. We get phone calls. Well, you know, not our responsibility. Our responsibility is those channels, the laterals, the North Main, the main channels. That's our responsibility.
Rolando,
And
Commissioner Perez.
The ditches along those subdivisions are your responsibility, correct?
no,
No, they're not?
no.
If it's along the street, it belongs to whoever owns the street.
So like
So-
the one, there's one, for example, Pelican's Landing, behind Pelican's Landing, whose responsibility is that?
Where's Pelican's Landing? again? I
Pelican's
don't
Landing
recall.
is off Wilson Road.
Where?
Wilson
This
Road,
road west of the school.
yeah, west of, Dr. Elias.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that all drains into one of our drains on the south side of Wilson. The only drain we have on the north side is the Sibley, and we've got plans for an extended another 40 acres of detention on the Sibley. We've already built some.
So it's not your responsibility to maintain those ditches?
The ditches are ours, not to borrow ditches along the road.
No, yes, yeah, I get that. I'm referring to the ditches themselves.
Canals.
Canals, yes,
It never has.
Not irrigation canals.
but drainages, ditches, yes.
She was gonna.
And I had another question while we're at it. Cause first off, Ronald, I think you do a great job, especially with our state officials. You're going there working out for those grants. I get those emails all the time. I think you're doing a fantastic job getting that funny. I mean, after a while, I'm like, Rolando again, but you're doing really great on that. I just had a quick question. Does the Drainage District number five, do you guys have a field crew? Like, do you have guys that actually go out there and dredge ditches or anything like that?
We contract with the irrigation district. Tom is over there, the manager. We contract. In fact, the supervisor has been working for 47 years. He probably knows more about the system. No, we contract with the irrigation
And
district.
how often is that done?
And let me address that. We try to schedule 3 or 4 times a year, but it's no different than any other city. When you get rain, the parks crews are trying to catch up with all the grass that's growing in the parks. And so we're trying to catch up. And while we're also doing work, and I'll talk about that in the projects, on the damages we received on North Main Channel, major damages. So they're having to go and reshape the North Main channels, and I'll talk about that, but we're trying to catch up, especially after a rain.
I think the commissioner's question is on a regular basis. Is that correct?
We try to schedule 3 or 4 times a year.
Year in and year out.
Yeah.
So that because you guys schedule it and it's contracted, so this is not something like if there was a resident that was to call, like, hey, this drainage ditch needs maintenance, this is not something that you can do off the,
I
right
pick
away
up the
because you
phone
have to
and call.
contract it.
We follow up.
You do, so you can contract, even though it's contracted and it's already scheduled, you can still go and.
Absolutely. You call me, or anybody calls me, a citizen, I got an email from a citizen, Eloy. By the way, Eloy is over here, our GI specialist. We get emails, we follow up immediately, whether it's La Feria Irrigation District or Harlingen Irrigation District, and they follow up. And I was gonna talk real briefly about, if we can move to the next one, Nick?
Just a follow-up, I think, just because of this question, because I know a lot of, Drainage District number 5 covers quite a bit of Harlingen, especially in where I live in District 5. Where can the community go, and this for the city too, I think we all need to do a better job of this, is where can the community go to see these schedule of maintenance?
Well, and let me tell you, one of the things, I think I sent an email to cities, drainage district this morning. One of the things we're gonna work on, and I know my board president mentioned it to me over the weekend, we need to do a better job of photos, schedules. We're gonna be updating our website, and in fact, that's one of our links.
So could we, since we're here together, and I mean, the city could use some help and I'm constantly getting after these guys and saying, update this information for the public and the community. Maybe we can work together so that it could live on the City of Harlingen website where there can be a link to where we can see the maintenance schedules for
Absolutely.
DD 5, 6, and the City of Harlingen. So that way, because I know you all work, everybody works in maintaining, and sometimes it's difficult to get to, I know we talk about our schedule, not just in drainage, but in all things, it's hard to get to every single park, every single drainage, every single ditch. All of that takes time, but if we have a schedule where the community can see and say, okay, well, we're due on this month or this date, then I think it'll be much easier for the community to gather that information if we can just have a link in our website that goes to yours.
And Mayor, can I say something? I think you're 100% correct, and we just asked. All of us, 5, 6,
Yeah.
let's put our information
Together.
on your website.
I think we're happy to do that if you want, or have a link that goes to your, whatever makes it easier.
Some area.
So that way we can ensure, and then that'll give us an opportunity to see if, because there are areas that are not covered by Drainage District 5, 6, and the city, right? And then if we can just kind of continuously grow and ensure that anything that is within at least our boundary, then people can identify who's responsible and with what that maintenance schedule looks like. And,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We'll be working on that. Projects, let me tell you, those are some of our partners. When we had our meeting, we had a meeting earlier. We had cities, San Benito, Rancho Viejo, Los Indios, Rio Hondo, all these cities, we're all working together. So our partnership is not only limited within our district boundaries, but I was gonna say, let me point out some partnerships or projects. Palm Valley. And I'm gonna share with you some of the challenges we have. Palm Valley applied for a grant, that open drain, based on low and moderate, only qualify for 5% grant. They don't have a sales tax base, they don't have any money, 95% loan. So what do? The district, Allen, and the board said, apply for that loan, we'll make the annual payments. This board agreed, every year we're making the annual payments for that project. And so what happened? The grant was awarded a couple of years ago, everything went up. They got a loan for 1.5, 1.4. The lowest bidder was 1.9. My board said, we think this is important. We will put, they had 300,000 of their own money from the drainage fund. We think it's so important, we're gonna put an additional 200,000 on top of that to make sure this project move forward. And so Combs, 508 Crossing, part of this relief project for the school. Farm Market 508 Crossing, they upgraded 3 30-inch pipes. The board approved paying for some of that work. Primera, Richmond Hills. It floods, it's in a hole. Julio Carranza came to us, he's gonna build a 100-acre development, 300 houses. He told the commission, I don't wanna pay the park fees, $300 per lot. And he said, if I buy those 5 acres next to Richmond Hills, I'll donate them to the city. And the city turned around and came to us and told the board, if we donate these 5 acres, will you build a detention pond? And the board said, sure. They're about halfway complete already in that detention pond. That's gonna provide relief to Richmond Hills. And the developer will tell you, we would not have done this development if it wasn't for Drainage District number 5. Harlingen, Spanish Acres, Secluded Acres. Allen, the district donated the pipes, the city went and installed the check valves. And so we're always looking for opportunities to partner. And we're about partnerships. And so it's important to note that. Now I want to highlight the current project, and I'll have the engineers all shed light on some of the details. Look at the first 3 projects. Those grants were awarded 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago. We still haven't been given the environmental clearance. Those are detention ponds. Why did I talk about being flat? Detention ponds and channel improvements. Those are 3 major detention ponds. And where they're located will help to control the amount of volume that goes through the North Main Channel. So it begs a question, what is a detention pond? Imagine being in a 3-story parking lot. And you're on the 3rd floor. You get to the 1st floor, you want to exit. You exit when the traffic allows you. Those detention ponds temporarily store water, and when the channel recedes, then it starts going into the channel. We have 11 detention ponds right now. By the time we complete all our projects, we're gonna have 20. Palm Valley Drainage, that's one I talked about earlier. Combs Relief, let me tell you something that happened. 2 weeks ago, we were so excited. Kathy Hopkins called me. FEMA has released a $7.7 million project. Friday, I knew it was something. Kathy said, call me. I go, oh, shoot. Trump administrator, not forget Trump, the federal government released this project 2 weeks ago. They put it on hold Friday. All FMA projects, 23 in the state of Texas, $91 million on hold. What did I do on Friday? Senator Cruz, Senator Cornyn, Congressman Gonzalez, reached out to Adam Hinojosa, can you call the senators or congressmen? Janie Lopez, can you do the same? Business 77 Crossing. We found a major pinch point and a major restriction on industrial and business 77. We're proposing to install 5 7-steel foot pipes under business 77. Look at what happened. Been on hold for 3 years. We had a conference call, finally got FEMA on the phone. Conference call, FEMA, TDM, Water General Board. The top-notch lady at FEMA in Washington is asking me, Mr. Vela, this is your 3rd request for information. I said, sure, and we're frustrated. She said, what about this? The TDM representative said, ma'am, they provided that information over a year ago. Let me forward the email from over a year ago. The second question, what about this? Ma'am, let me forward that email also. We've already been, probably, I told this to Commissioner Lopez, we probably would have been already in construction by now. So these are projects that are very, very important. We're estimating we're gonna move forward on these in the next few weeks, those top three. Palm Valley is almost complete. We're putting pressure, hopefully, federal government will release these. We're putting pressure, working with Senator Cruz and Corning. And this, we're in the design phase right now. And the next slide, proposed projects, levy certification.
Got a question.
Yes, sir.
When you say things are being held up for environmental, what does that mean exactly?
Well, it's a U.S. Corps of Engineers, a Water Development Board. We got a phone call that there was an endangered species on the property. I, as a layman person that I am, asked, why don't you guys come over here and look at the property and make hay bales? It's farm field. And so, levy certification. A gentleman that lives on Spanish Acres came up to me and said, Mr. Vela, my mom's house flooded. The zoning on my mom's house, no flood zone. I said, sir, your elevation is 2 feet lower than Business Zone 7. Look at the 1928 maps. We'll show you. So what did we do? It was a 50-50 match. My board said, submit the application. Water Development Board, 50% grant. We went to TDM for the other 50% match. Well, why is this important? This is gonna be a county-wide project, and Eric can shed light on this project. We have to certify the levees in order to update the FEMA maps, the flood risk maps. Those levees have to be certified.
Orlando,
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to understand exactly what you meant, that updating the FEMA maps. We're talking about the 50 plus that haven't been done?
No, we're talking about the flood risk maps that were adopted in 1975 or 1976 that the insurance companies, builders, realtors use, and the information sometimes is not accurate. So we're working on that.
Before we go on, maybe we can, just because, try to take advantage of the time that we have here, maybe you and I, Gilbert, we can work with the, try to get together both realtors and insurance folks and do some kind of education campaign for all of this area, I think, to say, we understand you may not be required to have flood insurance, but spend the extra $500 or $600 to get that just because it can cover you just in case. And an education on how those maps are outdated. And I think if we can get maybe the city, the Board of Realtors, the Drainage District, just everybody to kind of work together to push that out, I think that might be helpful to moving forward.
Definitely, yes,
Just so that way, because I agree with, I know Commissioner Morales has mentioned that a couple of times, and we can do a better job of letting people know.
Absolutely. North Main Drain Channel Lining, we submitted that application a few weeks ago. We believe that, I think it's already met all the hurdles at the state level. That's one I've already reached out to Cruz and Corning and Gonzalez. Can you fast track that? What is that project? Concrete line, North Main Channel from Business 77, where we're boring those pipes, concrete line up to Breedlove. And there's a detention pond that we have there, expand that, widen that detention pond, that project. Southwest Drain.
I got a question. On that section, once you line that North Main Drain, are you gonna expand it as well?
Right now, there is limited right-of-way, especially just downstream of Business 77, between that subdivision that's there to the loop. Past that, right now in the grant application, we are not doing right-of-way acquisition. But there is some channel reshaping though.
Yeah, at the outfall right there between Spanish Acres and Secluded Acres, if you go north from there, there's hardly any right of way there, right?
It's very tight.
And we will follow up. Southwest Drain Relief Regional Pond. I have to tell you that a few weeks ago, we submitted 3 grant applications in less than a week. This is to build a detention pond. and in the Palm Valley area. And the next one. This shows you, when you combine all those that we're currently working on with the ones we applied, over $65 million. I didn't include one very important one because we're waiting for FEMA and NRCS. If you come to the office, we'll show you the video footage of the North Main Drain from Searcy Road to FM 1420. FEMA came over and said, oh, we're at $15 million with City of Harlingen. We need to surpass 50 million. We gave them $81 million to put steel sheet piling on both sides of the North Main drain channel, $81 million. They came back and said, well, we can only reimburse you and to repair it. And it's still on hold until the president approves that declaration request. NRCS came over. They restored banks. They saw the footage. In December, we had shot aerial footage of when after we reshaped the North Main Drain, and then we shot it on April 9th. The banks cracking on top, the major cracks, the erosion on both sides. Yes, sir.
Let me add to that. The North Main Drain had a lot of collapse, a lot of the soil sloughing in. And in order for the US government to even consider helping us with any type of money, we had to fix it first for it to fail again. We knew it was gonna fail, but we had to spend the money to fix it in order for it to fail. And it, obviously, this rain event made it fail disastrously, right? It
Yeah,
failed.
you see
Because the soil there, you gotta think of the soil, the composition of the soil, it just wants to fall into itself. Jack has all the right words for that, and Alan, right?
Slipping, it's a dispersible clay,
So,
bad stuff.
so what happened, we hired with we contract with 360 drone mapping, they went and shot April the 9th, a few days after the storm. We have so if you come to the office, we'll show you December footage versus April 9th. NRCS people were here, Albert Aguirre. Like, oh my God. And he said, you qualify for 20, 30, $40 million. You gotta compact that dirt, you gotta put steel piling, all that. And he said, we gotta do a report. We submitted to Congressman Gonzalez, then the federal government will fund it, but then it's a priority. However, he said, while we work on the application you submitted, you cannot work on the North Main Drain channel. You have to leave it in its present condition. I brought this up to the board. I said, the general manager, I can't do that. We're 2 weeks away from hurricane season. We've got to stabilize those banks, get them ready for hurricane season. And Albert said, Rolando, if you touch the channel, you're disqualified. You can, even though we have the video, you have the video, and you have everything we need, you cannot apply for the money. I said, come on, guys, it's a program rule. Program rule. And so I bring that up because we, as your district, number 5, have a responsibility to be going out for grants. The board is highly supportive. Grants, do everything we can to build detention ponds, widen that North Main Drain channel, and because we feel it's important. So the last slide. Website, we're gonna be revamping the website. We're gonna drown you with information on pictures, videos, so you can see everything we have, make it readily accessible. There's gonna be an educational content. People don't know what flooding means. They don't know what an open drain, or they don't know what a detention pond is. We're gonna start rolling out events. You're gonna see signage on events. We're gonna have public events. We're gonna go all out on that. One of the things that we've done, Alan, Jack have been talking about this. The board at our last meeting brought up the idea, let's explore additional alternatives. We have this North Main Drain, 15 miles long. Let's look at other options. And how can we provide relief? And the board, their leadership, at the last meeting said, let's do a feasibility study. We will identify 2 areas, and Eric is gonna be studying that. What do we need to do? What's a width of right of way? We purchase right of way, how deep, the channel will be, what effect will that have in terms of providing relief to the existing one? We live in very different times. In closing, let me tell you something, we live in very different times. 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have the concrete we have now. The more concrete you pour, the more impervious the ground becomes. The more volume of water we have to carry. So we're looking at all these things, applying for grants, maintaining the channels, detention ponds, and doing all these things, and we're exploring different. With that, I would let Alan, Jack, and Eric talk about the importance of the channel, the alternatives.
Yes, so I think one thing I wanted to do is step back and say, the Drainage District has been actively working on a plan that goes back to 2016, which is what I was talking about, that model. And we are now at a point where that plan resulted in a model. That model is necessary in order to get a benefit cost analysis, which is then necessary in order to apply for a grant. From 2016 to 2019, the district commissioned us to put that model together, which included field survey of every single structure within the district. That means road crossing, culvert, bridge. Then from 2020 to 2021, we applied for, I think it was 30 million, just shy of $30 million in grants. Those grants, it takes a year, sometimes it takes 2 years for those grants to go through the system to ultimately come to fruition, to be issued so you can start working. Then once we started working on them, if you look at the Murphy South Fork drain, that's a $6 million grant. We have Corps of Engineers environmental approval, but we have to also get Water Development Board environmental approval. That one's pending very soon. North Main Drain, we're still waiting on Corps of Engineers approval. Sibley Lateral, we have Corps of Engineers clearance. We're soon to have the Texas Water Development Board clearance. And once that's cleared, we can then go straight to final design construction. We have 90% drawings on all three of those projects, totaling $15 million. Palm Valley was, I think it's 90% constructed, or
Well, it's almost complete.
yeah, almost complete, 99% constructed. Homes Relief, a portion of that, the district went ahead and started building because they didn't want to wait on the grant. And that's actually a longer story. I'll let Lauren tell if he wants to, but it involved extensive collaboration with TxDOT, with Vicente Gonzalez's office, with Texas Water Development Board, FEMA, et cetera.
That's where TxDOT donated concrete pipe. And that's a $7.7 million that was released and on hold. Build 2 detention ponds, upgrade the crossing from 1 24-inch pipe to 3 30-inch pipes. A detention pond next to Dishman Elementary, 17 acres. Another one on Crosser Road, another 17-acre downstream detention pond. All these are on hold. We're getting ready. TxDOT said, we cannot build the crossing for you, but we'll donate the pipe. It's about $200,000. And we're working with the school district on this as well.
We got the $200,000 pipe donated after we set a meeting with Alex Mead, showed him the project, showed him the damage to Dishman, walked him, showed him, and then we were able to get the grant from TxDOT. So just, again, that's how granular we're getting in trying to make these things work and getting the funding and equipment that we need to make that happen. I just want to point that out.
Absolutely. So it's all about these partnerships and working with people and trying to maximize.
Oh, by the way,
what we
Alex
have.
Mead is a commissioner on TxDOT. He's
Yeah.
one of 3 for the state, in case you didn't know.
Speaking of partnerships.
Yes.
Would you guys be open to, cause, there's a lot of times where I see stuff in my district and, they get calls for the ditches, but we can't work on them because they're technically yours. So would you guys be open to an interlocal agreement between the city? Cause I know I'm asking Gabe and I'm asking Mark to look into that. So that way we have permission to go into your stuff and fix it if we can.
Of
That's the way it works for my
the
district.
calls that we get, you tell them how many, I don't know what kind of calls that you're getting as far as the maintenance on the ditches that we own and stuff like that. The grass, is that an issue when we have a flooding? It just bends over and it lets it go? Do you see any trees growing in there and stuff like that?
Actually, I saw some behind Pelican's Landing in that ditch, yes.
You know, that might be one. That's a very small one. How tight is that in there behind Pelican's Landing?
That was where it comes through from Tam Lane across, it's a very tiny ditch.
No, not Tam Lane, but,
Well,
Pelican.
that's the one that goes right behind Pelican's Landing.
Okay.
Comes in from Tam, crosses over, goes by the north, here's, yeah, I've been driving, yeah, I'm not on the regular payroll, so I don't drive it every day.
Goes over to our Sibley detention.
Yeah, it goes,
We're
they're
gonna
there.
add 40 more acres of detention there. We bought the property, it's one of these projects. Waiting on environmental
I'll follow
clearance.
up on that, but
And also, because I know you mentioned calls, is there, because I know there are some people watching at home in the meeting. Would you have a telephone number that you can give to the public that they could call? Because we get a lot of the calls ourselves, and then when I get the calls, I mean, I don't want just in other words, if they're not our ditches, they should be calling people,
Yeah.
the response, so what's the number that they could call?
423-6411.
I'm sorry?
423-6411.
Okay, 423?
6411.
6411?
And we get emails from people, we follow up, we get phone calls, we follow up, and also we get calls from people saying, well, you know, my ditch over here, and we ask people, if you're unsure what district you're in, go to the website. If you put your address, it'll show you what district, who the county commissioner is, what district or what city it is. All that is laid out in one of the links, mapping links we have on our website. And we try to follow as fast as we get them, we turn them around.
So would you all be open to an interlocal agreement?
Well, we will, the thing about it is we are here to make sure that our ditches stay open, clean, you know, free of trash and vehicles. Had a vehicle in one this last flood, you know, that floated in during the flood. But if you get a call and there's an issue with our ditch, get with us. You know, we will work with you, you know, we'll get it done, we'll coordinate with you or whatever. But our goal is to have that water flowing at its maximum rate, and we will work with all the districts, all the municipalities, you know, whoever, because, you know, we gotta keep these houses and businesses, floors dry.
Because the way I see it, your success is our success.
Right.
Because the better job we do together, it helps everybody. And last question I had, because I know the mayor brought it up, what's that time frame for that schedule, Rolando, for that maintenance? Because if it's something just like a piece of paper that you have, you can just email it to us, and that way we can put it on. Because I know that's something that a lot of people want, is like the schedule of when this is getting done for the maintenance. So do you have like a time frame? It doesn't have to be on your website, it could just be like a little Word document or a PDF that you could
I know,
send to me.
yeah, there's not dates for that and stuff. It's just that we're gonna get through there 3 to 4 times a year.
So you don't
with
have, like-
mowing and stuff. But we're not gonna tell you that this ditch is gonna get mowed at this time. We'll just tell you that this ditch is gonna get mowed
Well, we
3 or
can-
4 times a year.
That
We
sounds
can
like,
put-
that sounds like TxDOT telling us.
No,
that
no,
we- we-
This
can put
is
tentative-
local, you know?
No, I'm saying, but
But-
that's the kind of response that we get from our partners at TxDOT. I think we need to, in order for the community to feel like we're listening, we need to have some kind of schedule. It doesn't have to say on June 15th at 5 PM, we're going out to, and we're gonna do this,
Yeah.
but just if you have a schedule and it's every 3 months, then, you know, quarterly, we're going to be in these areas. I think that that's sufficient. We don't wanna marry you to a certain date and then people are, you know, upset about it because.
We're working on that. As a matter of fact, we had a discussion with Tom, the general manager of the irrigation district, they supervise, they oversee our maintenance. We're actually working on some type of schedule, and we can definitely put something up there, but we would definitely put disclaimer saying, you know, this is the schedule we're looking at. Again, when something happens, it's like when you have a major event, things are disrupted, everything's thrown off, and.
I understand
so,
that, but
yeah,
I'm saying just
I
in
cannot-
general.
And I don't think anybody can do that, and I'm speaking as a former city manager, you can't put something on a website and say, we're gonna be on this date, at this time, on that date.
Yep.
You can't do that.
The city does
You
that.
can say that your schedule, your tentative schedule is this.
But we do
and
that.
you're working.
We do
Well,
that.
what I
there's a
think.
major difference between mowing in an urban setting and mowing in a rural setting. you know, the guinea grass on a rural ditch has already gone that high within 3 weeks after the event. You've got 70 miles of that to go through. It dropped from what, 3 miles an hour on a tractor down to 1. So all of a sudden, instead of 3 weeks to get through a system, it's taking 7 weeks to get through that same stretch. There's no comparison between mowing in an urban setting where you're mowing an alley and the small stuff and mowing 70 miles of rural ditches. And if you don't mow that rural outlet end, it didn't do you any good to mow the urban part inside because the water can't get through the channel.
So I understand that. So how can we say then that it's happening every 3 times a year if we don't know if you're gonna have 3 opportunities out of the year based on what you just mentioned? How do we
Typically,
reconcile that?
even on the high rainfall time periods, we can get through the entire system a minimum of 3 and generally 4 times a year. We could just set January, we're gonna mow the whole system. April, we're gonna mow the whole system. Next quarter, we're gonna mow the whole system. But that's about as close as you can get, because whether it takes 2 months or 3, that's gonna depend on how much it rained and if it rains, how long till we can get back in to start mowing, because they're all mud.
And we have to work with the irrigation district schedule.
We can,
We don't have personnel to do that.
we can get it in that type of time frame.
Yeah, Commissioner.
That's gonna happen.
I think that's kind of where the
But-
commissioner was trying to say, trying to figure out whether there is, since we have staff and you'll have to contract it out, would it be best to have these MOUs so that way we can assist if we need to? But y'all are the experts in the district to know where it is that you're going to need help and
We
where
wanna
you're
help.
not.
That's the whole thing. We wanna help.
We're gonna work on something that it can be a tentative schedule that shows, and we are gonna put that on the website, and
So Commissioner, so was your request for the interlocal or the MOU just on maintenance or maybe some improvements?
Everything.
Because, for example, if there's some ditches alongside within the city limit that belong to 5 or 3 and there's right of way there, I mean, it would be feasible for us to go in there and expand that section, right? So is that part of the interlocal that you're talking about?
Yes.
So would you guys be open to that?
We would be interested in discussing, the things that ultimately will work for
both
everyone.
of us.
But maybe one thing we might be able to do is, our experience has been, 3 to 4 times per year. Maybe we need to map out a little pencil sketch based on 3 times a year. And then if it's going faster and we're getting through there faster, we're just ahead of schedule.
That's wonderful. I think that people aren't
At
gonna
least people
complain
can
about
see,
that.
they can see, something that gives them confidence instead of sometime when we get to it.
Right, and it could be a range.
mentality.
It could be a range, we are, between January and March, we are, this is the area that we're covering, and then the next quarter, this is the area. Of course, Mother Nature has its way of throwing a wrench in things, but just so that way there's something. And could we do the same for drainage
Well, I
district
think
number
what you're,
6?
go ahead, no, you say,
Yeah, well, Norma, Mayor, we are on a schedule. The biggest issue is we make plans and God just laughs at us, it's just- but
You too?
realistically, I don't think we'd have an issue trying to get in a local with you guys, our attorney's here, get with your attorney. Our biggest issue is, we don't have we have a general manager, office manager, we don't have equipment, we're subcontracting with either Harlingen or La Feria Irrigation District. We don't have an issue trying to get you guys a schedule. We're mowing right now, we start mowing and our plan right now is we're mowing in La Feria, we're gonna mow in Santa Rosa, and then we're gonna work our way out. We're gonna try to take care of the areas around the city. Our general manager does a really good job of trying to coordinate with Tom or with Al in La Feria and try to mow. But, with the interlocal, I don't think we'd have an issue, just get with us. you know,
Yes, I think this is what they're asking for. They're asking for some structure. And what that means is, when Javier, when we start mowing from point A to point B, just a simple email. It's a kind of a pain in the butt because there's just more work to do. But basically communicate to you what we're doing every time we're doing something. Yeah, to the city.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for.
Yes, and so now hearing this, maybe your schedule varies, you know, looks different than ours, but your schedule looks like Drainage District number 6 is actively mowing these areas at this time. District 5 is doing these at this time. So then they can look and say, okay, you know what? They're working on this area of town, and so they can't get to us. And then when should we come back and look for an update? This is gonna take us 2 to 3 months, right? And it may change. It may say 2 to 3 months this time, maybe 2 to 4 months, just depending. And as long as we're kind of updating that information, and if it needs to live on our site, I think we can
do
accommodate that.
People
Maybe-
either put it on or have a link.
People just need to feel that something's being done, because as of right now, and again, I know you guys are doing stuff. The thing is, the general public, they don't know. And unless you put that out there and say, look, this is what we're doing, like, just like Norma said, this is the section we're doing at this time. And it may not be directly where they're, but they know something's being done, and that's all we're asking, is that we want the people to understand that something's being done. And it's not just to Main too, because like with the projects like Oscar said, because I'm like looking at Gilbert, I know Gilbert, I asked him earlier about a ditch that's in his district. I wanna do a project there, right there off the Hick Hill, there's a drainage ditch. We did our part with the city, but then now there's more that belongs to you guys. And that's where I would want interlocal, where we can work together and we can get this done, because ultimately, like I said, just with you guys, your success is our success. And then we do better when we work together.
Absolutely, and let me just say, and I'm gonna wrap it up, but I was just say this morning, an email was sent out to a lot of cities in the county, La Feria, San Benito, Drainage District, the county, coming together, working on agreements, formal agreements, and also discussing PR strategies. Everybody's involved in projects, and how can we get those out there? And let me tell you that a couple of weeks ago, we had it wasn't public, it was more like a staff meeting. What happened in March? What did we learn? It's already scheduled for within the next 2 weeks. 20 of us are coming together and say, what happened? And what did we learn? How can we improve? How can we get ready? And how can we prepare ourselves for the next event? That's something, so you may not see it out there publicly, but all of us are working, and we're holding hands. And so I just wanted to let all of you know, in fact, that meeting's already scheduled. But we're working on all these things, and again, on behalf of Drainage District number 5, we appreciate being here. We appreciate the partnership with the city. We appreciate the partnership with number 6. We all work together. I was gonna say, there was a Sunday morning after the storm, that morning, I called Albert, number 6, he said, Rolando, no, with La Feria Irrigation, he said, Rolando, we're tied up, we're working over here. Can you get Harlingen Irrigation to go work in this area over here that they normally work on? So it's all about working together, we do that. And so it's about coordinating and working together. Again, thank you for allowing us to be here.
Yeah, and I'll just say, just to echo that, I mean, I want to thank everybody here that is at the table, because during the rain event, I know I was on the phone with Gilbert, and you were, you know, trying to help me and making connections so that way we could help. And it didn't matter where the boundary was. We were all working together. Rolando was stuck, I think, I don't know exactly where, but you were stuck at a somewhere where.
Conference. We had to drive back.
Yeah, and it was difficult for you to get, but you were on the phone with us.
Absolutely.
And so it was a collaborative effort, and the only way we were able to get through this is that everybody here was working together. So I don't want anybody to feel that we don't know that. We're just asking these questions so that the community knows what it is that we're doing, because it's definitely, we can't do it alone, and that's the whole purpose, right, of having this meeting.
To stress the advocacy that we're doing constantly, specifically, what conference were you at the day that storm hit?
Texas Floodplain Managers Association, my first meeting.
But who was there in Dallas?
It was in
And FEMA?
FEMA was there, the TDM was there, it's where I met the state official from TDM. One of our grants was on hold. Michelle said, Rolando, what's going on? I said, well, we've been waiting for 3 months. And she said, you'll get that contract tomorrow. I'm eating lunch with a friend. She walks by 2 hours later, Rolando, you're getting that email shortly. And so we work on cultivating relationships, working with officials, and it's an ongoing. And by the way, I'm gonna say this about Nick. Friday morning, when the day we were supposed to come back, at 6:20 in the morning, Nick called me. And we're getting phone calls at all hours, and that's part of what we do, we don't complain. But we're building, like Luis, Oscar, Gabe, everybody, we're all trying to figure out how to work together. That's what this is all about, serving people, and this is what it's all about.
And I think that's really important because Rolando and I have traveled to Austin together multiple times and fostering these relationships with the Texas Water Development Board, being in Janie's and Representative Lopez's office, you know, trying to get that it doesn't happen overnight. But I will tell you now that everybody answers the phone when we call, but it's because you're in those rooms and you are having those discussions and really just putting just taking all those stories that are happening in our community and making sure that they're front and center. And that doesn't happen overnight. And it's unfortunate that you have to do that, but it is required. And I don't think that there's ever been a time where there's been more advocacy for this region than now, from everybody that's here.
Eric and Jack, all the water, at least in my district, goes out through the North Main Drain. And as you heard Anna say earlier, and you guys are living testaments in Allen as well, right? About how long these grants take from FEMA and TDM and all that. What immediate relief can we get or work towards on the North Main Drain to start the expansion? Because as they expand in the west, that water comes straight to me. And that's gonna hit me and flood my neighborhoods worse than they've already done. Valencia, Spanish Acres, Secluded Acres, and that's a bottleneck, right? And so I'm looking at CAD, Eric, you're right? Like you have some areas that gets wide, right between Spanish Secluded Acres, you have a lot of room to expand. Or the moment you cross, right where you and I were looking, right where you cross that irrigation, that like floating irrigation ditch right there, it gets super skinny again, right? So what immediate actions can we take to start the expansion? And I do commend you guys and your DD5 board. I know you guys have already looking, and Rolando did a phenomenal job, and thank you for inviting me to your board meeting where you are now exploring a second North Main Drain. And I cannot, I'm over the moon, and whatever we can do that I can do to help support that, and I'm here for you guys to advocate on behalf of y'all. But what can we do now that I can get immediate relief, whether it's through city crew or whatnot, so that we can start expansion?
I know that there was check valves put on the outlets from Spanish Acres. Were they put on Secluded Acres as well? I know it helped on Spanish Acres. I was out there and the water level in the ditch was higher than the water level in Spanish Acres.
Correct, and I make that, I explain that to people, but, when water is up to their knees or up to their thighs, and it's the second time in 5 years, they're not, they're frustrated, right? And I appreciate staff, we got 2 pumps, that, as you know, Spanish Secluded Acres are a bowl. Your staff showed me the topography maps earlier today. But what else can we do? Because the longer that the water stays there in that North Main Drain, the longer those flap gates are gonna be shut. That means more water, as we have rain, is gonna keep filling that, I call it a cereal bowl, right? Keeps filling that cereal bowl. And yeah, we have pumps, and thank you, Oscar, for helping us get those, but we need to expand them, in my mind, to start pushing that water out, because a pump is not the ideal way, right?
No, it takes a tremendous sized pump to move the kind of water that a storm produces. I had a guy tell me, well, I can put a 4,000 gallon per minute pump in there and pump that water. Well, that's about the equivalent of one 18-inch pipe. We're talking 10 by 10 boxes and bigger. So pumping is a pretty tough solution. Sometimes it's the only solution. Immediate relief for that area, I can't think of anything offhand.
I know Eric mentioned that right now is not the time to acquire some right of way there on the North Main Drain. There's certain.
No, it may be.
Yeah, but do you guys have any sections there where you have right of way right now?
Just the only place where we have adequate right-of-way is between secluded acres and Spanish acres. We
But
have
then-
good right-of-way in that area.
Yeah, the issue is then we make a pond, more water flows from the west to the east, and we flood even worse, in my mind.
Well, and every retention pond that we're working on, you know, that if we hadn't had so many people dragging their feet, you know, that do these approvals, whatever the deal is, that takes it so long to get our environmental approvals, we would have had a lot of those dug. And whether it's upstream or whether it's not too far downstream, all of those things will reduce the flooding in Spanish
We
Acres.
do have plans for downstream detention.
But we've been working on those for 3 years, right? Like, so when I first came in, you guys worked with me, and again, thank you, to put in those flap gates, right? But since then, you know, it seems like our status and our forward motion has stopped, right? I know we're putting in these grants and all that, but again, 3, 4 years, we got a flood in 2018, 2019. So there's nothing to say that we don't have a hurricane hit us this year. There's nothing to say, right? Like we said, God's gonna do what he wants to do. So,
Mr. Javier brought up, I know you asked for a pump, I think we mentioned I think I talked with Jack, 80 CFC, what is that cubic? Like
It's-
it drains a trailer in 20 seconds. It's the equivalent of 40 pumps, and it's like over $1.5 million. That's something that, with ourselves, with the county, number 6, and the city of Harlingen, all of us, Adam Garden, we put one of those major pumps over there. Something like that in that area, to be able to pump that or, Alan, you were gonna say something, Alan?
Go ahead, go ahead.
No.
That's, you know, to me, the one thing to remember is none of this happens fast. So we did that project when it came to our attention, but we don't generally look at providing service to like your district or somebody else's district. It's,
of course.
where is the problem within our system? How to make our ditches work more? I got into this, and I know people get tired of hearing the, you know, it exceeded the 100-year storm. I kinda got into this business because I was married in Bandera, Texas in summer of 1978. 2 weeks after we had 48 inches of rain in 48 hours. The wall of water that came down the Medina River was 32 feet high. Houses that had never flooded before with 16-inch thick rock walls, you couldn't even find the concrete slabs that were under them. You know, it was devastating. That was the state record storm in Texas until Hurricane Harvey, when Nederland had over 60 inches in 48 hours. I've seen what it does. I volunteer with the United Methodist Committee on Relief, cutting sheetrock out of houses after floods. I didn't do that many this year, only cut it out of about a half a dozen. It's a terrible, ugly thing. But on the really flat ground, going back to Rolando's artificial drainage, no matter what you do, you will never have a system that will prevent you from flooding. You can lessen the severity, you can lessen the frequency, but you can't control how much it's gonna rain. We had 22 inches. Bandera in 78 had 48. You know, just,
Advised by flood insurance.
yeah. It's,
It is, I mean, it's important to recognize that the North Main drain is a,
48 inches here.
I mean, it's an agricultural drain that was, you know, built back when most of this area was farmland. And so it isn't a natural, channel that's formed over 5,000, 6,000, whatever, 1,000 years. That has a natural floodplain and it's all contained like in other parts of the state, even in some places in Houston, you still have that. It's if you look at the 1930 maps in this area, it's all just ponds. It's just dried out holes all over the place. If you can still see it if you go hunt up in, you know, in Willacy County or Kennedy County, you see it. You go out there and it's just pond after pond after pond. And the north main drain connected from one low spot to the next low spot. That's why it does the little jag. It isn't, it just was connecting to these little low spots. And then over time, the farmers filled in these low spots, and now we got no storage. And then the cities were built on top of it. So it is a complicated problem that's stacked on top of a complicated problem. And the solution, if you wanna say, hey, let's go build the North Main Drain, look at Houston, Sims Bayou, that's 200-foot wide, bottom width channel, 15-foot deep. I mean, that's the type of stuff you're talking about. And it is massive, and it's expensive. It's not 50 million. It's maybe, I haven't done the calculation. It might be $500 million. So,
which we don't have.
yeah, so it's just, I want you to get the scale of it. You're literally fighting against nature, what we're doing. Because nature says the water in this area should go to a low spot and pond and then infiltrate in the ground. That's how God designed it. And we have, you know, created through agriculture and all these other things over the last 100 years, in a way, we've kind of created our own mess. But it's gonna be expensive to solve it. And that's one of the reasons why Rolando is trying to address this artificial drainage, and that's the essence of it. It is, everything here is man-made. So,
I think it would be important to, what's our revenue, other than some grants, is ad valorem taxes. That's the only thing we collect. How much do we collect annually?
$3.8 million.
How much?
3.8.
3.8. We have to make that stretch a whole long ways.
So we have loans, grants, the maintenance, and so we're doing capital scheduling, so how much money we're gonna need. So we're projecting, when are we gonna get this grant, when are we gonna pay this? And so we're projecting out, and my board, I'll tell you, they're very conservative. They wanna make sure we do the projects, but they look at everything we bring up, and rightfully so, it should be that way. So, you know, we're doing as much, and so we're hitting it from all targets, artificial drain legislation, maintenance, partnership, all these things, exploring new channels and.
So,
For what it's worth, we're also building higher now. For many years, I'm gonna say probably 50 years, there was no on-site detention ponds enforced. You know, nobody looked at the finished floor elevations of any properties. So that's done now, and if you look at the subdivisions that have been built maybe in the past 5 years, there was some flooding in the streets, but no water in the houses. Compared to a subdivision that wasn't built to that standard, right? And so that's another, I guess, mechanism that we have. Because like the engineer was saying, to move that amount of water that fast can cost, well, someone said 1 billion, right? I don't know if we'll get to that, but but it's in the hundreds of millions, so.
People don't realize that when you subdivide a piece of property, those lots are shot at a certain elevation. There's people that will put a sidewalk across the lot, they'll put wooden fences, so all of a sudden that natural elevation of that lot has been disrupted. And what was supposed to go to the front or the back or whatever is now thrown off. And we're getting those phone calls and we're trying to explain.
Yes. So I guess growing responsibly was something that probably wasn't done for many years.
But it has been.
Yeah, no,
happening
in the recent
these-
years, it
yes.
has.
All the cities within our district, we're working with them on raising their new houses 18, 24 inches above the elevation of the streets, and you're seeing the benefit. You're seeing those houses, you know, the improvements, and so.
More important than so many inches above the street is for the engineers designing the subdivision to set an actual finished floor elevation. That may or may not be higher than that 18 or 24, and you build to whichever one is higher.
Exactly, yes.
Gilbert, is Anthony gonna present for you?
Yes, but,
Thank you.
but thank you,
Yeah.
can you pass that around?
Guys, good evening, guys. For the record, my name is Josh Ruiz, and I'm the board president for Drainage District 6. Um, Thank you for having us here today. I want to take a few minutes and give you a quick overview of how Drainage District 6 came to be and the progress we've made since then. Our district covers approximately 36,700 acres and includes the entire city of La Feria, the entire city of Santa Rosa, several incorporated parts of Cameron County, and a small portion of Harlingen. Drainage District 6 was created November 2021 after a successful election where 84% of the voters said yes to forming a district. The vote came after a devastating flood event in our area. And just 6 months later, voters approved a $22.5 million bond to help us kickstart the flood control projects. Since then, we've been working hard to make good on that trust. We entered into a maintenance agreement, secured grant funding, and already put over $5 million of our local dollars towards making our projects shovel-ready through planning, engineering, permitting, and acquiring right away. And we've been able to leverage those dollars to bring in even more support for just a few examples. The Tilcano project, Cameron County contributed $1.3 million in ARPA funds for construction, while Drainage District 6 handled the design, inspection, and covered the overrun cost. Adams Garden Pump, Drainage District 6 committed over $500,000 of local funds with the help of the City of Harlingen and Drainage District 5, which each contributed $75,000. And I want to thank you guys for that.
We just cut you the check for that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. The Parker Drain expansion, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez helped secure a $500,000 in federal construction funds. Six stepped up to provide the design, environmental work, and right-of-way in any construction overrun. Adams Garden IBWC levy project, Cameron County has pledged $1 million to match another $1 million from GLO funds. And Cameron County Drainage District 6 again will handle the design, environmental work, and cost overruns. In addition to all that, we've submitted 10 applications to the Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Fund program from the 24 and 25 cycle. We're requesting over $42.5 million in total, about $19.7 million in grants, and the remainder in 0% interest loan. Our local commitment up to now has been around $5 million, but thanks to the partnership we've built, we're unlocking a whole lot more than that. It just goes to show how far we can go when we work together. During the March 25 flood event, we put every one of our pumps to use and worked closely with DD5, the county, and the cities in a quick response and effectively. We're also proud to have a strong backing from our County Judge Eddie Trevino and County Commissioner Gus Ruiz, as well as legislative delegation Congressman Vicente Gonzalez, State Senator Adam Hinojosa, State Representative Jenny Lopez, and State Representative Oscar Longoria, all of whom have provided strong support to our projects. Our board has asked General Manager Javier Jimenez to keep working closely with the City Manager of Harlingen and General Manager of DD5 so we can keep building solutions together. Because at the end of the day, floodwaters don't care about city limits, district boundaries, and we will work as a team. Everyone benefits. Thank you.
I'll make a quick run through our presentation. Josh covered a lot of it, but I'm gonna focus mostly on projects. So this is the Drainage District 6 boundary on top of the digital elevation model. What it shows is the district, and we've got two unique areas. We've got the Tilcano area that has no natural outfall, which means the only way that water can get out of there is by evaporation. And then we've got the northeast corner, which has a unique situation of being bordered to the east by US I-69E and the railroad tracks, and on the north, the levee. So we all know when Hidalgo County's tailwaters show up, the gates close, and that water has nowhere to go. So those are our two bigger issue areas. And here's just a little synopsis of the history of the district, starting in June 21, when the preliminary engine report allowed it to be taken to the voters, approved by 84%. You know, they collected their first tax dollar on, I have it there somewhere, on October of 2022.
And, in under 3.5 years, this is where we're at. Created a list of capital improvement projects that were feasible to fund based on the initial preliminary engineering report. There were 15 projects in total. 2 have been constructed, one of those 2 halfway, and the rest are under development and shovel-ready or almost shovel-ready. So one that's completed is a Teocano pumps. These pumps ran for 31 days. It's, how many CFS?
That was a total of, we had a total of, 120.
The way we were running it, the district has 2 pumps and La Feria Irrigation District has 2 pumps. It was an ARPA-funded project, partnering with Cameron County. It was completed in February of '23, and it just drained that area faster than it's ever drained. We've gotten a lot of compliments even from people that have suffered from an event that is just very transformative for the area. Another one was a Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation project for a small community located south of Business 77. 83, I'm sorry. Business 83, and that project was completed and, was effective during this flood event at getting water out of that area. Project number 5 is Adams Garden, and this is a 2-phase project. There was an existing pump structure, and in partnership with Adams Garden and D5 and the city of Harlingen, we placed, is it 100 or an 80? 80. It's an 80 CFS pump on the existing structure with a portable motor. And phase 2 will work on making that motor permanent and adding a second pump and upgrading leaving 2 60-inch pipes in place and adding a 10 by 12 box at the levee. All levee projects, we have 5 levee projects that are all at the last step of getting their IBWC construction license. The environmental is complete on everything. These are those projects. We've got all our Army Corps of Engineer coordination completed and approved and responses. We'll be shovel ready by next week. Like I said, so the second phase of Adams Garden, project number 5, is a collaboration with Cameron County and the GLO. It's fully funded for construction. Today, we have a GLO construction license in place with the county. And 1 through 4 are pending the formal FIF award from the Texas Water Development Board for construction. We were recently at list of projects that got approved. So these 4 from the west is one, we go from west to east counting. So the 1 through 4 are funded by FIF. The East Ditch widening is a project that's being made shovel ready. It's still pending a funding source. We're in the works for that. That's located in La Feria. Project 8 is a La Feria project, Clark Road ditch. It is designed right-of-way acquisition on all our projects is at approximately 80%. And this is just pending FIF award for construction funding. Projects 9 and 10 are around Santa Rosa, the Ovaya drain and the East Ditch. Both of these projects right-of-way are at 80%. Design is at 100%. Geotech is done. They'll be shovel ready this summer as soon as right-of-way acquisition is done, and we're waiting on the Water Development Board to give us the green light on FIF. These projects are our typical section of ditch that represents 150 feet of right-of-way for more rural areas, so you can have a bench design that provides a lot of linear detention and makes it easy and safe to maintain. One of the innovative things we had to do on this is go west of some power lines and get away from existing ditch right-of-way to provide adequate infrastructure. Just a little to see the difference, that's our urban ditch right-of-way, that's usually 100, and we neck down where we have to avoid, icebergs, but that's typically what we want to see. Project 11, Parker Drain, 11-mile project, 85% PS&E, right-of-way acquisition, probably about 50% complete. It's a 7-mile ditch, fully funded by FIF, and we also have a $500,000 earmark from Congressman Gonzalez to construct the northernmost portion. And we're in the works with the HUD Environmental and all that to get that done. Project 13 is a 40-acre approximately detention pond. It's mostly designed. Right-of-way acquisition is underway. There's a consultant acquiring right-of-way, and it should be shovel ready by the end of the year. Also fully funded by FIF, and the #1 ranked project on the list. And basically in 23-24, we completed all the models and studies to add 11 projects in the Region 15 Lower Rio Grande Valley flood plan. In 24, the Water Development Board adopted the statewide flood plan that included these 11 projects to make us eligible for FIF funding. In 2024, we submitted 10 applications totaling $42.53 million. And this past month, we got all 10 of those projects that we submitted for put on the approved FIF list. So we're currently pending formal award of those. And then the next steps are just to, you know, like we can touch on maintenance with Javier, but, you know, going from no maintenance to having maintenance in an area that was typically considered no man's land, you know, the area where all you have is roadside ditches, whatever the irrigation district does to their ditches, and whatever the city does to their own infrastructure that doesn't include outfalls, you know. So basically going from ground zero to having a working system and a team chasing, you know, chasing the vision for what the district needs to be, but that was brief, but if anybody has any questions, you know, we'll provide the presentation and we're available anytime.
Awesome presentation, thank you for
Yes,
that. I've got just two questions.
Mhm.
One, I saw the award, congratulations on getting them all funded. Those are all the low-interest loans, or did part of it grant money?
Depending on census data, some projects qualify for 50% grant, 50% low interest loan, and other projects qualified for 40% grant and 60% loan. So we ended up with about 19.7 in grant and the remaining 23 or 4 in 0% interest loan.
That's fantastic. My second question is, I know it's kind of, you know, this is a new drainage district and you guys have been working really hard since the creation. Was there any, did you see any difference in this rain event on, because I know that these projects are just getting funded, but with maintenance and everything, can you talk a little bit about that?
Huge difference, and the interlocals are the big part of it between Adams Garden Drainage District number 5, La Feria Irrigation District. You know, it's kind of easy to have like a concierge service help, you know, instead of having 50 people on staff and the overhead associated with that, you know, you call somebody who, they're not irrigating because it's flooded, right? So they have people standing around, so that's a good thing. So it was a huge response by everybody. We had the pumps at Teocano running at 120 CFS. They had pumps at every levee crossing that the gates got closed at the IBWC levee. They ran Teocano for a month, and they ran Adams Garden, the 80 CFM, and then how many gator pumps, Javier?
10.
For 7 days. So we had 10 gator pumps and that main pump driven by a diesel engine for 7 days, and we pulled the water down probably faster than it's ever gone down with the gates closed.
We had residents that live in the Teocano area, attend our last board meeting that commented like, yeah, it flooded, but they've never seen, they're lifetime residents there and they've never seen the water recede as fast as it did after this last event.
I think that those are the reason I asked this, I already obviously knew that, but the reason I asked that is for others to hear that, because especially watching at home, that it's hard to celebrate those wins when there's still devastation. And just the fact that you have to be, you know, even saying that, you know, for extended period of time, even I think you said up to a month in certain areas. I was just sharing with Daniel that I was driving down to Arroyo City just last week, and there's still houses underwater. Like, the magnitude of this storm was just no joke. And I think that that's getting lost in the community because of the fact that it was so much water. But there are so many mitigation efforts from the city to the drainage districts that work and that are working. It's just we're gonna continue to improve. So kudos to y'all. I mean, wonderful presentation and great job on getting those awards.
Anthony, can you just kind of elaborate on the levy? Pumps, size of boxes?
So it's 100 CFS pumps, I think, dual 100 CFS pumps, and on the projects 1 through 4, it's dual 10 by 10 boxes. And at Adams Garden, because it was under an existing structure, we're leaving the 2 60-inch pipes in place and then adding a 10 by 12 box and adding another pump. So that's the only one that differs a little bit. The other 4 are very similarly designed, except for a little bit of survey conditions. And another initiative that's a global initiative that the district is doing is we're collaborating with TxDOT on 2 large-scale transportation projects happening in northern D6 to try and make sure that we talk to them ahead of time and get betterments put in place to make sure that we have adequate drainage crossings at these new roads. So kind of looking at it a little bit further into the future. You know, we've put in place what we think we can get delivered in a reasonable amount of time, and like we all talked about today, a couple years is reasonable. And you know, in the 3 years we've been in existence, I think we've come pretty far. And I think that we continue this momentum. You know, having the right of way in place, we know, is usually the biggest challenge. And having plans done and having all this stuff. And these guys took the local dollars and made the commitment to make them shovel ready before they even knew they had a grant. And that, I think, is what really made the difference.
And do you have any, like, on the drawing boards, do you have any possible projects that we can collaborate with you? Because I'm reaching out to Gilbert a lot, because Gilbert, we're kind of like almost neighbors. But at at the same time, you know, my district is one that borders yours. So is there any projects that you may have on the drawing board that we can?
The Adams Garden is really the whole watershed along the
Yeah,
eastern
and that's what
border,
I'm
and we've got, that project is gonna be the most helpful project, and it's basically in queue for the Texas Water Development Board to give us the, GLO, to give us the money to. That one also will be bid out by Cameron County, since they actually applied for the grant for that project before D6 existed. And then we started working on it, and they were like, hey, we got a grant. We're like, for what? We're like, for the project we're already working on.
Hey, Anthony, on the Tiocano pumps, just for illustrative purposes, the average pool in America is 20,000 gallons. How long does it take you to fill up a pool if you're pumping, all the pumps pumping in that one pool?
Or,
I don't know, 120 CFS complete, I
a
have.
minute, 2 minutes?
The 40 CFS pumps 18,000 gallons a minute.
18,000.
So, I mean, you fill it up in less than a minute, a 20,000 pool with all the pumps we have going, so. Just
So
the
Rini,
illustration.
We are in talks, we've been discussing in our meetings of expanding, and we're gonna come to you guys, of course, because we wanna do it together. In the near future, working that drain that goes all the way north, you know, with the crossings. A lot of the issues is in the crossings. We are talking about that drainage is on the east side of Bass Boulevard. You know, we are talking about it, and we wanna work with you guys on that. And here about a year and a half ago, we met with your engineer, and I think Gabe was also at the office. Found out,
One of the assistant.
One of the-
I think this- You did good go.
yeah.
You went to La Feria.
Yes, so we made it, we've been talking about that, but we do need to follow up with it. And Mayor, something that, and I'm sure, DD5 is gonna agree with me, something that you guys can really help with is with the illegal dumping on the drain ditches. It's a big problem. The off-road vehicles on them, it's a big issue. And we see it, and we just have a small section, but we see it in our district as well, and we're in contact with the constable's department, we're in contact with the sheriff's department and the Lafayette PD and Santa Rosa PD. The illegal dumping is a big issue. And if you guys could help us, you know, with that enforcement, it would really help a lot.
And I'm gonna elaborate, I'm gonna go a step further than what Josh said. What we have to do, I get it, you wanna try to catch somebody, but most of the time, they're gone. What needs to happen is, cause I'm sure everybody's seen it, when somebody's mowing I don't know who, doesn't matter who it is, it's just hard to get up and go pick something up, and I get it. What I'm trying to get at is, we need to have these crews go out and pick things up, cause nobody's gonna pick them up. Right? Doesn't matter what it is, somebody's gotta pick up the tires, somebody's gotta pick all that stuff up. I mean, we're talking about that, but everybody has to help, cause if we do not pick that stuff up, it stays there. I mean, unfortunately, and who did it was some fruitcake, doesn't matter, it's there. And so, I mean, we need to address it, and we've got to enforce it.
That goes into what I want to bring up next, because I know I brought this up to Gabe, and I think what we're doing right now, we're all getting together and we're talking, and that's good, because we're looking at possible ways to collaborate. But what I think we should do is, this shouldn't be just like, because this is the first one we've actually had since I've been here, like for 4 years, where all of us get together and sit down. But I'm not saying that we should all get together, but what I think we should do is, like, our staff at least get together maybe on a quarterly basis or every 2 months or something like that, just to see where we're at. Maybe you come up with some more projects, maybe you guys are having some issues with the dumping, you let Oscar know, and Oscar's our superstar right here, they'll get that fixed. Or, you know, something with you guys are having some issue. So I think if you guys are willing, this is something that we should have our staff get together, like maybe, you know, quarterly or something.
I don't think quarterly will suffice, honestly. I think this has to be monthly at least.
And we'll coordinate that, Commissioner. And I was gonna say, Mayor, here comes this government relations guy that comes out of me. How about a letter signed from you, Steve, Board President, to Senator Corning, Senator Cruz? We'd like to meet with you. We would like for you to come down.
I think you need to include all the other districts as well.
As well. Number 3, the irrigation district. I mean, seriously, it makes a difference. They need to see what's going on, that we're working together, and there's some little.
So you guys would be open, not to get off the subject, you guys would be, because that legislation stuff is very important, but I'm looking at the stuff that we can do like immediate effect. So is that something you guys would be open to, like having our staff meet on a monthly basis?
We've already initiated that.
Yeah.
And we're working.
We started right after the flood.
Okay, good.
Commissioner, we had our first meeting, and it was.
And this is gonna
pretty much-
continue?
It was this group, oh, yeah. And I think especially dealing with, if we do enter into an MOU, I think what the best course of action would be, I think if they're mowing, we should let them keep mowing, but I think we need to focus our personnel on expanding ditches, making them deeper. I think that'll give us a bigger impact than helping them mow their.
Well, I agree.
And the reason for those MOUs or interlocals was that we already identified projects in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. On 2, it's, well, of course, Spanish Acres and, on 1, it's Adams Crossing. On 3, it's Westgate subdivision, which is that district, I think it belongs to District Number 3. On District 4 is White Oak, which I don't know who it belongs to. On 5, we've identified Pelican's Landing.
The Tam
So,
Lane
yeah,
and the
so-
Los Ranchitos and.
So there's areas there where there's right away there. Do they have them? Well, we need to know so we can go in there and work with them to see we can expand. I mean, those are the things that those interlocals will help with.
Well, and let me tell you, we already initiated these staff meetings, or we're working on all that. And, we're just, right now, we're trying to recover from this event, but we're already setting the groundwork for these regular meetings among ourselves, staff. What are we working on? What do we need? What are some things we can do together? Those are things we're working on, so.
Can I, what about a Zoom call every month? Just with the
Just
general
mention it,
managers?
yeah. Or they can meet, I mean, I don't see why Javier couldn't meet once a month with you guys.
Absolutely. That is,
I'm a big fan of the Zoom call meetings too, and I think sometimes, this is great. I think that we should get together like this. I don't know that we need to get together monthly, and quarterly may not even be the answer either. I think that's gonna be dependent on where we are, what it is that we're doing, so we have to be here collectively. But I do think that the general managers, and city manager and potentially our ACMs can meet and just hop on a Zoom call and see how things are going. And I don't see why that shouldn't happen monthly, and it could take 30 minutes, just to hop on a call. Everybody stays in their office, that way you don't have to come out here and take time away from your, everything else that you guys got going on. I think that.
I'd like to add, so we did one already, right, Gilbert? We had that meeting initially, and one of our future projects was that alternative to the North Main drain. That was spurred from that initial meeting. So to Commissioner Bettis' point, it was real, it was actionable, and we're already taking the lead on it to see what relief, if any, quite frankly, that would provide. So that is the huge benefit of having those types of meetings, I think, so.
Well, let me assure you, we're gonna initiate that with Carla, Tom, all of us working together. We'll be meeting regularly, see what's going on, what are we working on, what are some of the things we need to focus on. Those are things that we, at the staff level, are gonna do. We're not gonna be posting agendas, it's just staff, and we'll be working on that.
Well,
Literally
they're not
talking-
gonna wanna come back if we're having 2-hour meetings, so let's wrap it up.
So Mayor, something that, and this is where we need the help, mainly, because, we're so young, we're 3.5, 4, getting to be 4 years old. And maybe, and we've worked with the other smaller cities. We gotta clean some brush out. If you guys could help us with the brush hauling, stuff like that. And I guess Javier can get with Gabe on that one. Because sometimes we just can't afford to do what we're having to do. This rain event, it really hit us hard. But if you guys could, we don't mind begging or asking for help. Trust me, we've been doing it for.
Have you met me? That's all I do. That's all I do. I feel like that's my job.
I've spent in this days in Austin, chasing Janie and Morgan before Adam, and now Adam. And I mean, that's the only way we're gonna get it done. And like Rolando said, you gotta get in front of them.
That's why this dialogue is very important.
You gotta get in front of them.
That's that.
So, we have real high expectations at the city in terms of maintenance, and we've learned a lot. I think everybody learned a lot from this rain event, and so I know that they stay very busy at Public Works. But if there is an issue that is urgent and that's impeding drainage in a certain neighborhood, and we are foreseeing that that's going to be a problem, and y'all can't get to it for whatever that reason is, that's why we're here. Give us a call, and Oscar is really good at finding a way to get it done. It might not get done that exact second, but as soon as there's time, I mean, we wanna work together, and we all serve the same constituencies, so.
And we need to, there's, you know, there's no way we're gonna get done to it alone. We gotta work together.
Absolutely. All right. Yes.
Well, I appreciate, you know, the city of Harlingen, you know, getting the equipment, digging the retention pond, all of these things, because like he said, you after the, you know, 6-inch rain, you still had room, and so you didn't have enough for all of it, but there was a lot of people whose homes did not get flooded. And, you know, the city doing that, the other districts doing that, our district, you know, we do all this starting 3 or 4 years ahead.
Right.
You know, so that, you know, someday we have that, and we hope to, we push as hard as we can every direction to get this done, but I appreciate the people that, I appreciate the work y'all have done, and the people who benefited from that need to recognize the good work that Harlingen has done in that project and the other projects.
Now, I know Thursday morning, and I think I shared this with Rolando on the phone when we were talking, like, where did this rain come from? But Thursday morning, I was at a award ceremony for my son over at STEM, and there were some moms there that live in Palm Valley, and they were just raving about all of the great work that DD5 did because they got so much rain. We got, I think it was 8 inches, but I don't know if it was 6 inches or what Chris said it was 6, but I don't know, 6 inches of rain. And they said everything was working great, no flooding, everything was wonderful. And then, of course, you know, I was like, oh gosh, they're gonna call me now, right? Because it's not so great anymore, right, with 22 inches of rain. But that just, to the point, the project is working. There was no way that you were going to be able to prevent what happened with 22 inches of rain. But we know that 6 inches, that project worked. And that's, I mean, that's not even in Harlingen, but it's across the street from my house. Of course, you know, it's like if we're all one community anyhow. And so I know that those residents were happy with the work that had been done. It just means we got more work to do. Well, thank you. Unless there's any other questions, all right, well, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.